how to make accessible hashtags. Now, this is very intentional because this is a very simple technique that you can learn in order to make a lot of your content more accessible, because you do use hashtags in your blog posts, in your promos, obviously in social posts. So we are intentionally starting with something very simple that you can implement today, because yes, digital accessibility can become very technical and very complicated, but there are a lot of techniques that you can learn and manage yourself in order to make your website and your social posts and your digital downloads all more accessible. So we're going to start somewhere super simple. It might seem kind of strange to you. Hashtags, what are we talking about? But I'm going to show you how to make them accessible and how easy accessibility truly can be. So let's kick this off. So if we haven't met before, my name is Nicole. I am the owner and operator of Access Designs LLC. And please forgive me, I have to give the disclaimer, I do currently have a cold, so I apologize if my voice is scratchy and a little bit nasally. It's just that time of year. But anyway, why in the heck should you be listening to anything I have to say about digital accessibility? Well, I am a web designer, I'm a digital accessibility specialist, and an advocate for inclusion. Even though I had a 20+ year career in event management within hospitality, I have been building websites for over a decade, and I am a native user of assistive technology. What does that mean? What is assistive technology? We will get into the depths of that in later videos, but I do use screen readers and a variety of different types of magnification depending on what I'm doing, because I do have a vision impairment myself. So I am your end user if you're a small business owner. I do have web design and front end development certificates, as well as I am a DHS trusted tester and accessible. Well, they're hearing impaired, they can read the hashtag. For both, someone who's hearing impaired and cognitive challenges, think of hashtags you've seen. Sometimes you have to slow down to figure out what is that hashtag, because it's just a bunch of letters together with no spaces. You have, your brain has to work fast enough for you to get that hashtag and move on. So someone with a cognitive challenges, that can be very difficult. And for those with hearing impairments, they certainly can read it. But again, if it's not written accessibly, if they're seeing it in a closed caption or reading it in your post, it can be very difficult for them to consume and interact with that hashtag. Let's talk about the benefits to creating accessible hashtags. So if you are running a small business, you always want to reach more people, right? That's what we all want. We all need more customers, more clients, more interactions on social. We need more people in our sphere. We need people for our businesses to flourish. So if you're creating accessible hashtags, they can be more easily found by screen readers, which means people using assistive technology, people that rely on that in order to consume your content, in order to buy from you, in order to hear about your sale, in order to hear about your new service that you're offering. If your hashtags are accessible, they're going to be able to be found by people using assistive technology and screen readers. So your audience, you just expanded your audience by creating accessible hashtags. I mentioned it a minute ago, but of course, by creating easy to read hashtags, you're going to improve the user experience for everyone who interacts with your content. By creating accessible hashtags, you are definitely going to be reducing the frustrations for users with disabilities who may struggle to interact and comprehend complex and confusing hashtags. You want to boost engagements with your posts, right? That's the whole point of doing them. So by creating accessible hashtags, you're not only making it easier for users with disabilities to find your content, you're making it easier for them to interact with your content. And that's what we want, right? Again, if they're using a screen reader, they're using assistive technology, that software needs to be able to read your content so that it can interpret it for those users, and then those users can interact with it. They can reply to your posts, of course, it's going to increase the engagement. So if you're getting increased engagement, you're getting more leads, you're getting more clicks, more likes, more comments, more shares. And this is what we're looking for when we're promoting our businesses on social, right? This is what we want. We want more engagement. So let's make it easy for all of our users, but particularly those with disabilities, to find and interact with our content so we can boost our engagement. So we not only want more engagement on our posts, right? Almost just as important, we want better search rankings. It's so hard these days with AI now to find a new way to rank in search. But I'm here to tell you and let you know that search engines prioritize accessible content. This is something you need to remember throughout this whole tutorial series, because the more content of yours, your social posts, your website, blog posts, any content you're putting out there, digital documents, your course workbooks, your ebooks, the more of those entities that you create in an accessible manner, you have a better chance of ranking higher. Why? Because those search bots, they work a lot like the assistive technology do. If they can read your content, they're going to rank it. Of course, you need, the other entities, in order to rank higher, but this is an untapped source on SEO, is creating accessible content. So we want to make sure that your hashtags are clear and concise, and that can definitely give you an opportunity to improve your content's ranking and search. Okay, this one here, this benefit, this may be the best benefit, the one you need to pay attention to. Why should you even be paying attention to creating accessible hashtags or anything else accessible? Why? Why in the heck should we be doing this, Nicole? If you prioritize accessibility, you are going to have the competitive advantage. Digital accessibility, like I mentioned at the beginning of this tutorial, it's not a wide conversation right now. It's starting to come out of the woodwork, but it's just starting to gain momentum. And there are laws surrounding it and different guidelines, and we're not going to get into that here. But if you start now, you're going to have the competitive edge over your competitors who aren't paying any attention to it. Now is your time to jump in and start ensuring that your content is accessible, because not only you're going to have the competitive advantage, you're going to be ahead of the curve by the time this all comes around, and it is 100% required by law, which is coming down the pipeline. If you learn nothing else from this tutorial, other than, of course, you're going to make accessible hashtags by the end of this, just know if your brand prioritizes digital accessibility, you are going to crush your competition. The last benefit we're going to talk about today is that if you're using accessible hashtags and implementing accessibility into your other digital content, you're going to build trust and credibility. By demonstrating your commitment to inclusivity and accessibility, you're building trust with your users, letting them know that you care about their needs. And in today's day and age, that's pretty much what anybody wants. They want to know that they're cared about, that they're valued, whether your customer is disabled or not. All of them want to know that. So this little step to learn how to make accessible hashtags is just going to help you reach that audience that you haven't before, and you're going to build trust and credibility with them, and most likely very loyal customers. So let's recap quick here. We had 6 major ways that creating accessible hashtags can help your business. You're going to, number 1, you're going to reach more people. 2, you're going to create a positive user experience for everyone. Number 3, you will boost engagement. Number 4, you can improve your search visibility. Number 5, you will gain the competitive advantage. And number 6, you are going to build trust and credibility with your potential customers. All right, so let's get into some stats about digital accessibility. I think some of these numbers are really going to blow your mind. Okay, so if you weren't aware, approximately 1 in 4 people in the world. That's approximately 1.3 billion people have a disability. Companies, this one's huge, folks. Companies are losing a combined 6 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars annually due to inaccessibility. That is massive. Even if you were to get 0.1% of that in profits by creating your content accessibly, that is massive. And then, of course, the competitive advantage. We're back to this. Companies that prioritize accessibility on average see an 80% return on their investment compared to their competitors. So those who are investing in digital accessibility, they are seeing huge returns on that investment. 70% of adults with disabilities use social media. So just like anyone else, this community, my community, the disabled community, uses social media to connect with people who have similar interests, hobbies, to find resources, to connect with people who share the same challenges. So they are online just like anyone else would be. Now, the global shoppers spent $1.08 billion through social commerce in 2023. Now, the numbers aren't out yet for 2024, but those numbers are expected to have a compound annual growth of 10.8% for 2024 to 2029. So what does this mean? This means that obviously people are spending a lot on social commerce. We're talking the TikTok shops, Instagram ads, your YouTube shopping, Facebook ads, all of that. That's the social commerce. Now, this industry was more important to the disabled community prior to 2021. I mean, obviously we know since then, a lot more people are doing all of their shopping online. But the disabled community has been online as long as they have been able to be online, as long as they've had the resources to be online, because being able to shop online and have things delivered to your home, your groceries, clothing, just necessities, let alone entertainment and hobby, stuff. But it is a lot easier for most disabled people to have those items delivered to their home because one, they may not have any ability to leave their home, or it can be very, very difficult and very complicated in order to find transportation and get assistance shopping. So the social commerce aspect is super important to this community. And as you can see here, they're obviously spending a lot of money online shopping. So if you are a small business owner and you have an online presence, this is an audience you want to get in front of. Did any of those stats surprise you? Just consider 1 in 4 people have a disability. So that means someone in your circle has a disability, whether you know it or not. And how about the money that is being lost by businesses because they are not focused on digital accessibility? That's $6 billion. That's not just the social commerce. That is any retailer, anyone selling a product or a service. So we're talking salons, restaurants, accountants, pet suppliers, digital product makers, everybody who is selling a service or a product is losing out on that money. And let's be honest, the disabled community has money to spend, and they're going to spend it with someone who they can interact and they can easily purchase a product or a service. And if they have a challenge, they're going to be telling their family and friends, look, I had the worst time trying to buy this on this website or at this store. And what is the best type of referral? It's word of mouth. And, everybody, it's more common to share the negative than it is the positive. So if you get in front of this and you're making your content accessible, that will spread through the disabled community and their family and friends, and they are more likely to buy and purchase and interact with companies who have the focus on digital accessibility and who care about that community. So now let's get into what you all came here for. Let's learn how to make hashtags accessible. This is going to be super simple and it will become second nature. Once you know how to do it, it will be the easiest accessibility task that you can accomplish and do today. Number one for making accessible hashtags is to use clear and simple language. This is not a place to get fancy. This is not a place to use acronyms or industry-specific terms, unless the only case would be if you are targeting that market, then use industry-specific language. Otherwise, keep it super simple and clear. Number two, avoid using emojis and symbols. There's a couple reasons to do this. Oftentimes, screen reader software and other assistive technology software cannot even interpret the emojis or symbols, so those will be completely missed. Otherwise, if you get those people who are putting smiley face emoji, fireworks, high five, hugs, they're putting 50 smiley faces in a row. If the screen reader is picking that up, that is going to be highly annoying because it will read each one out loud separately. So we don't want to do that. Tip number three, make hashtags easy to remember. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. The whole point of using the hashtag is you want engagement, you want it to be catchy, you want other people to use it to kind of spread awareness about you or your business. So you need to keep it simple, but make it memorable. So the first three tips, they are really common sense, aren't they? I mean, if you think about it, you hopefully are already doing those things, but maybe they're a good reminder for you. Tip number four, this is where we really are truly making it 100% accessible. You need to use CamelCase in order to ensure its compatibility with screen readers and other assistive technology. And what is CamelCase, you might ask? Well, let me show you here. CamelCase is when you are writing words or phrases without spaces, where the first letter of each new word is capitalized. Now, when you are doing this, the very first word isn't required to be capitalized in order for it to be accessible. So the first word can be upper or lowercase, but each following word needs to start with an uppercase letter. And this does include the, as, a, of, for, all those short little words that you may not think. They should have an uppercase letter to start with. So let's get into some examples. I just want to give a quick disclaimer here. The audio is going to change on this next slide just a bit because I wanted to be able to be sure that you could hear the screen reader read the content out loud. Now let's run through some examples of accessible and non-accessible hashtags, and I want you to be able to hear how a screen reader would read them out loud to a person using assistive technology. And just listen carefully, the difference that using the CamelCase and not, the difference that it can make. So let's just run through a couple examples here.
Hashtag just do it.
That one's pretty clear, right? Hashtag just do it. But if it's not CamelCase,
Hashtag just do it.
just do it. I mean, if you couldn't see that, could you guess that it's supposed to be just do it? Or would you be like, just do it? Like, what's do it?
Hashtag time for a change.
Again, that one's pretty clear.
Hashtag time for a change.
It's close, but still, it could be better.
Hashtag share your best. Hashtag share our best.
Again, those two that we just did, they're not too far off, but using CamelCase is such a simple thing and an easy way to fix it. But listen to this last one.
Hashtag give what you get.
Hashtag give what you get.
Hashtag give what you get.
No way that you would know that that's in English if you couldn't see it. So again, hopefully being able to hear how a screen reader would read it out loud just shows you the importance of this simple accessibility tip that you can do starting right now to improve your digital content. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful and easy for you to understand the importance of accessible hashtags and how to easily create them. Now, like I mentioned, I've never been a big hashtag user for multiple reasons, honestly. They are hard to read for someone with a vision impairment. Often they are in that awful light blue text color with a white background, which is also awful. And if it's not in CamelCase or there are an abundance of hashtags, I'm simply skipping it. But tell me, let me know down below. Should we start the hashtag, make it accessible? Let me know. I'm open to it to see how it works. Like I said, I guess they're still valuable in 2025, and maybe I should convert. Maybe I should become a hashtagger. Let me know. If you wanted to learn more about the relevance of hashtags in 2025 and how to create those strategies we talked about at the beginning, I will make sure that these articles are linked in the transcript. If you're interested in reading more, there was an article from Search Logistics, the American Marketing Association, and Boral Agency, where I found a lot of great information. So I will have those linked in the transcript if you are interested in reading more about hashtags in 2025. Tutorial number 1 is in the books, and you now know how to go out there and make your hashtags accessible. Before you know it, it will just become a habit and you won't have to keep, think about it being CamelCase and what am I doing? It will become second nature for you. So thank you for joining me for this tutorial. If you have any ideas of videos like you'd like to see, maybe accessibility issues that you've always had questions about, or maybe a customer has brought to your attention, please leave a comment down below and we'll get it on our content list to get you a tutorial so you can start making your content more accessible. Until next time, go out there and make it more accessible. Bye.